Record. Okay, cool. So, how's it going, people? If I manage to stream this live, I'm so excited today. This is so cool. Okay.
You
So
are,
I'm
you are streaming live.
woo! Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Woohoo!
Okay, so I bet technology today and I managed to get this online for you guys, which is what I've been dying to do for months right now. So today, I am absolutely so excited. So, you guys know that the month of October is a whole month about child and family welfare and well-being. It's also Mental Health Month as well here in Ireland. So, a lot of things around mental health come up, and I really wanted to tackle families this month because I think it is just going to be absolutely amazing to get as much and get as deep into all family situations and things that affect our children and things that we can do to help them grow and prosper and feel good and be better about themselves. And also for parents as well to help them grow and prosper in the journey of parenthood, which can be tough. So, yesterday we spoke with Steve Costello, and last Friday we spoke with Helene Moore. I am following up on that today. Helene gave us an introduction into IVF and the treatment process and what women face going through that whole thing, and how she can help. And then Steve talked to us yesterday around the issues of foster parenting and foster children and how we as a society can help, integrate that a little bit better to help children. So I'm just going to see that light. Okay. Am I too bright? I look like a ghost. Anyway, today I'm going to introduce my amazing friend from the UK. I absolutely love and adore this woman. This is Nicki Young. She is just incredible. And, I really wish that Nikki was around when I had my babies because I went through so much like loss and grief and like depression and all sorts of things when I had my kids. And I didn't know what was happening to me or what was going on. So this is Nikki's specialist area. Nikki has a background in HR. She's a very professional woman herself. She has a little boy who's so
Sometimes.
cute. Oh my God, he's so gorgeous, George. Hopefully you'll see him in a picture behind her. Is that a picture of George?
Yeah,
Oh my God, he's so cute.
George is
Love him.
a scary monster.
I
Oh
love
no,
it.
him in the window. Yeah.
I love it. He's awesome. So she knows all things about mums going back to work, what the laws are around that, how to make it easier for mums to manage the attachment, I'm guessing. Nikki is going to tell you guys all about this anyway. So Nikki, introduce yourself. Tell my tribe how you can help them.
Yeah, thank you.
Go!
Thank you. So go. Thank
Go!
you so much, Siobhan. Thank you for having me and for the lovely introduction. Thank you. And for introducing me to your wonderful tribe that's just growing and growing and growing. Amazing.
Yeah, they're so
Um,
cool.
so cool. So yeah, it's so my role now, if you like. So I have my own business called Mummy Mojo, and I help mums, working mums, and it's mostly around sort of mindset, confidence, etc. But it's also because I have the HR background, I can help them with like the processes because it's so difficult to navigate sometimes. And this came from, so just a little bit of history as to where it's come from and why I started it was because when I was on maternity leave, which is 4.5 years ago now, well, George was born 4.5 years ago, and all my antenatal class friends were looking to go back to work, I realised that they just didn't know very much about their rights, about what the processes were, and
Mm,
it led to quite a lot of anxiety.
sure,
And let's face it, there's enough anxiety as it is, and this is
absolutely.
even without any extras like postnatal anxiety, depression,
Mm,
OCD, psychosis, without any of those things,
yeah,
even just, that all aside, even without that, there's enough with regards to separation anxiety, not feeling enough,
hmm,
mum guilt at leaving your children to go back to work, losing your professional confidence, all of that. So it dawned on me that it's just not good enough, quite frankly.
I love it. I
It's
love it.
not good enough. So me being me and wanting to change everything, I just thought, well, I can actually help people with that. I'm a mum, I'm a coach,
Yeah,
I'm an HR consultant. I've got that sort of triangle, if you like. So
yeah.
I can help people and I
Oh
can
my
help
God.
organisations. And that's just what I want
So,
to
so
do.
good. Yes, I love it. I love it, Nikki, because like you're so well rounded as a person. I mean, if you guys out there, Nikki is such a great friend of mine. I'm so blessed to have met her, you know. Um, and like, isn't it so cool? Like to see that niche and to see that area where you're bridging the gap, I
Yeah.
suppose, because that wasn't there previously. Like, I mean, there was no understanding of even pregnancy. I mean, even from talking to Helen last week, um like there's no understanding of the whole process of what you go through, um and there's much less understanding of what it's like for a mother to hand her child over to someone else, like particularly if it's a creche or a childminder. So do you think it's different for a mom if she has to hand her baby over to, say, her own mother or her mother-in-law or to a creche? You know, what's the difference there? What do you see in that, if there is any at all?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. I think the experience of my clients is, I think, to be honest, the biggest difference where family are around is probably more of a practical thing, in the
Okay.
sense that they have a support network that those who don't have local family, or local family that they can, use in that way, they don't have. So, for example, my particular situation, we don't have any local family around here. A lot of my friends don't. Some of my friends do, and I think it's that whole thing. If you don't have anybody you can rely on necessarily
Yeah,
to do, when me and my husband were both working in the city and having to dash back to nursery and all of those kind of things, there's a real practical thing as well.
sure.
In terms of how that feels to kind of, hand your child over, I think it probably largely depends. My experiences with my clients seem to be that those who are handing them over to a relative, it
Mm,
probably feels a bit more like the child is having like just a family day, but with a different family member,
yeah,
as opposed to they're, handing them over to an institution, or, something that's
yeah,
a lot more formal, where they might not know any children, etc. Equally, there are experiences where, as you sort of go down the line, there are, and the debate is, it's just each to their own. That's what I say to people, because people ask the question, which is better, childminder or nursery or family? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, because it's individual, up to the individual and what's right for you and your family. So
sure.
there are pluses to all of these things, as we all know. And I think one of the most difficult things is feeling okay with the decisions that we make. And I think that's the toughest thing. And if we can get to the point where we can feel okay with the decision we make, whatever it is, then we'll just make that work. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
because, there's so much around mum guilt. There's so
Yeah.
much around, we don't feel enough. We don't feel like we're good enough, doing
Hmm.
enough, there enough, giving enough, whatever it might be. So
Yeah.
I think if we can kind of, and this is what I work with mums around, is the mindset piece
Yeah.
of feeling comfortable with the decisions that we make, in which case it kind of doesn't matter whether
Hmm.
you go with family or childminder or a combination of all of them. Each one of them has different enrichment experiences for the
Yeah.
children, and the kids don't know any different, quite
No.
frankly. Yeah. If they're with grandma, they don't know that other children are at nursery with other kids.
Yeah.
They don't know. So
Yeah.
we make it work, and that's what I want to try and do, is empower mums to feel comfortable with the decisions that they make. So
Sure. Absolutely. That sounds absolutely so accurate and so cool, because like when you do go back to work, the main concern is that your child is going to be safe anyway. That's really the main thing, isn't
mm,
it?
yeah, totally.
And once you feel happy and comfortable with that decision, then you can get on with working on your confidence level of going back to work. I mean, I think that's a really interesting theory as well, because when you have been out for 9 months, and I mean, I've seen it where mums have become very ill during their pregnancies, and they've been out nearly the whole term of their pregnancies. I know I was very sick during pregnancy. I had hyperemesis,
Oh gosh.
and that caused me to miss work for a good few months before um, even going on maternity
Yeah,
leave. Do you
yeah.
see much of that happening as well, Nikki? Or
Yeah, definitely. And also, of course, there are lots of people who spend the first, 2, 3, sometimes more months in hospital if there's,
yeah, oh my god,
complications with, or if it's premature or very
yeah,
premature. And so they're all things. I mean, I knew somebody who, when I was at work, actually, my boss texted me. I was coming back from holiday and I wasn't due in the next day, and he texted me and he went, "Can you come in tomorrow?" I was like, supposed to be on
Oh,
holiday, and he went, and he said this. He said the name of the girl. I said Lucy's had her baby, and I was like, oh, okay. I was like, I thought Lucy already had a baby. So there were two Lucys that were pregnant. One,
oh
I was
God.
doing their maternity cover, and the other one wasn't due until for another. It was at least 3 months. Can't remember, however it was. And he went, no, no, I mean that Lucy, and she'd had her baby like 3 months early.
Oh God.
And so, their experience and the experience of so many parents
Mm,
is hospital, hospital, hospital. I mean,
mm.
especially at the moment, given all the restrictions with COVID,
Yeah.
I can't even begin to imagine what that must be like. And so yes, there's the experience that you unfortunately had, Siobhan, where people are off for a long time beforehand, so they're already becoming disconnected from the workplace.
Yeah.
And it's not because they're putting their feet up, having a lovely time. They're
Yeah.
probably very, very anxious, possibly quite poorly. So
Mm,
there's all of that going on. So yes, exactly. With at least usually sort of 6, 9, 12, maybe more months out of that environment, the number one thing that my clients come to me with is lack of professional confidence. They've just lost it because they haven't been in that situation for such a long time.
yeah. Yeah. I can
And
see how that would happen.
massively. And I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was in jobs and,
Mhm.
I'd have 2 weeks holiday, maybe I'd come back and I couldn't remember my password or, I'd be like that. How do you do this again? I can't remember. That's after 2 weeks. So if we then put ourselves in the position of a mum who has, grown a human being,
Yes.
been physically well or not, all of those sort of different situations, they've given birth, they've got all of the physical, hormonal,
Mm,
emotional things that go with that, kept that child, alive and well and developed and all of those things for that length of time. And I'm not saying it's only moms, please don't get me wrong, but it
mm.
does, there's lots of evidence that lots of that, most of that falls to the mum. They've got had all of that going on. Try and imagine then for those of you who haven't been through this, just what that is like
Yeah.
when you're then coming back into a workplace that has changed possibly beyond recognition, especially at the moment.
Mm. Yeah. And may
And
have new
also,
systems
you
and
may have new systems, new products, new team, new
yeah.
structure, all
Oh
sorts of things.
God.
I was talking to a client last week who works in healthcare, and she said she's actually on her second maternity leave, but the first time all the drugs that they used changed. So
Oh
she
my
went
God.
back to completely new drugs. So having been, in healthcare for years and knowing what she was doing, suddenly she's like the new girl again. And that's
God.
really tough. That really does knock your confidence.
Oh
So
yeah.
so I guess in terms of kind of advice and how we can help, it would be, well, first of all, I would say if you are a mum, one of my big pieces of advice is just to really acknowledge how you feel. I think it's really
Mm,
important that we don't pretend we're okay, that we acknowledge that there are difficulties, there are challenges, there are things that we feel anxious about, uncomfortable with, not
mhm.
confident anymore. It's really important that we acknowledge that so that we can make a decision about what we do with it, first
Okay.
of all. I'd say for those who are perhaps in the workplace or colleagues or friends, it's really just understanding that that might be the case and try and have some empathy for the fact that they haven't been on holiday for a
Yeah.
year. As you said, parenting anyway, regardless of whether you're a mother or a father, but
Yeah.
parenting is really challenging. It's amazingly rewarding, but so challenging.
Mhm.
And so, try and have some empathy with what this mum may have experienced in her time, regardless of how I just ask her how she is and what she needs. It's a good
Perfect.
starting point.
I love it. So asking her what
Yeah.
she needs, big thing. Absolutely. That's fantastic, Nikki, for
Yeah.
and not to be afraid to reach out because everybody kind of say, oh, this is wonderful, you had a baby girl or you had a baby boy or whatever it is. And it tends to be all about the baby and mom is sitting there
Mm.
going, oh my God, I'm wrecked. Why
Yeah.
doesn't somebody help me?
Yeah. Because you end up kind of going, oh yes, they are, whatever we say, 17 months old or whatever. We,
Yeah.
we don't stop
Counting all
saying
the
how many years
months.
there are till they're two for some reason, but and it is
47.9 weeks.
yeah, exactly. And everybody's like, what? How much is that? I don't even know. And it was really tricky sometimes. And again, speaking to some of my lovely clients who are back in the workplace, some of them have
Mm,
said, well, my boss has asked me how I am, but it's kind of like, how's the little one? Oh, great. And then into work. Whereas actually, a more helpful conversation can be, how's the little one? And how are you? How are you
yeah.
finding it being back? All of those kind of things to just really find out what they need. Do they need a bit more hand holding? Do they need some more information? Do they need a buddy, for example, who's also been through that and has returned themselves? That can be really, really helpful too. So
Whoops.
ask,
Sorry.
ask that person what they want is a really good place to start.
Cool. I love it, Nikki. That's awesome advice for anybody out there. So tell me, Nikki, baby brain, true or false?
Completely true. Completely true. Now, I'm no scientist,
Woo!
so let me just caveat that massively. You probably know more about the background to this than me, Siobhan, but I mean, it is, isn't it? Because I mean, they say that it's the same with the menopause as well, that
Yeah,
the hormonal changes, trigger that fog.
yeah,
So it absolutely is. And to be honest, even if it's not a hormonal thing, it's just your brain is so full of stuff.
yeah.
Again,
Jesus.
just sort of trying to, how many women do you talk to? How many mums do you talk to where getting out the house and dads, getting out the house is a mission
Oh my
or it's
God,
a
totally.
military operation?
Yeah,
Have you got the right feeding stuff, the right clothing, change of clothes,
yeah,
enough outfits, the right, especially at this time of year, do you need hot stuff or cold stuff? Do you need a
yeah,
coat? It's not surprising there's not much room in the brain for much else other than that.
yeah.
My understanding, and I'm not a specialist in this side at all, but my understanding is that there is a real, hormonal factor that those hormonal changes can cause some kind of fog. So yeah, for me, baby brain was definitely real.
Yeah,
Couldn't
me
remember
too.
what I was doing from one minute to the next. Um,
Oh man.
you
Comment
know,
down below if you've experienced baby
yeah,
brain.
I
So
would
even if
love.
you're
Yeah,
like, the man of the family, let me know what your experience are with this.
absolutely. And again, would love to hear about dad's experiences with this as well.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
I mean, here in the UK with shared parental leave, a few
Mm,
more dads are starting to take the leave, but it's not been that well taken up, to be honest, and
yeah.
probably even less so now with COVID and everything
Yeah.
that's been going on. But I'd love to hear the dad's experiences as well,
Yeah.
because it's so true. Like sometimes some of my NCT, friends, they've kind of gone, oh my gosh, it's such a mission. I hadn't realised how much is
I know it's
involved in that.
crazy.
And
And then
one of the things, sorry,
no,
Siobhan, one
go
of the
on.
things
Go
that
go on ahead, Nikki.
love about this is that often as mums we feel like we're not enough, or we feel
Yeah.
like we're less of a person when we return from maternity leave and when we went off.
Mm.
Actually, and this would be my encouragement to all mums and anybody that works with mums, is actually if you think about what they've had to go through, deal with, just organize and get done in that time they've been off, what skills are they now bringing to your team?
Oh yeah. I love that.
Resilience, multitasking, efficiency, all the stuff because they just have to get it done. What an amazing thing to bring back to the
Yeah.
workplace. And I think, if people can start seeing it that way rather than it being like, oh, right, yeah, you had a nice holiday, did you? That would be really helpful.
Yeah, it would be awesome actually because you do go back with a lot more skills. And in some cases, it can be a break to go back to work. I've talked to loads of mums who feel, oh my God, I feel like I'm getting a break when I'm in work
Yes,
actually because parenting a new baby is so tough.
yeah, I can go to the toilet by myself,
Yes.
which is quite good.
Yeah.
I get some adult company and some adult conversation. It is
Yeah.
true. And it's,
Yeah.
I
It's
mean, I had empathy for it beforehand, but I don't think I really, I obviously didn't really understand exactly what it's like. But it is, when you're spending all day potentially just on your own with a baby,
your baby.
um,
Yeah.
and when it is, because obviously being on maternity leave, they're not presumably, unless you have very long maternity leave, they're not old
No.
enough to have a conversation with or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
you do want to go back for some adult conversation. And I remember saying to my husband at sometimes I was like, which train are you getting? When will you be home? Because like I need the adult company. I need this.
I know. Oh my God.
It can be
I
very,
worked
very
with a
challenging.
nurse years ago who said the minute her husband came in the door, she just threw her kids at him. She just threw them at him. That's it. I'm out of here. I'm
Yeah,
out.
done. I've clocked off.
Gone.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it.
But that is the reality, like, isn't it? And I think that even from my own experience as well with my kids, like I remember I was doing my degree in college in addiction studies,
Mm.
and I had Mia was 2 years old and Erin was just a newborn baby, and I think she was about 2 weeks old when I had to go back to college again, to do my
Yeah,
final year. So this was a little bit crazy. When on reflection, I would not do this again and I don't recommend it.
but you did it. Amazing.
it's crazy stuff, right? But I remember doing it and just thinking like, oh my God, like your mind is not your own to begin with. But the other thing, just to go back to that piece that you said about the mummy guilt, feeling
Mm,
guilt, for leaving your kids and stuff like that. Obviously, the baby had to be brought to college with me, which I was very grateful. They facilitated that for me because I was breastfeeding, and she
amazing,
would not take a bottle or a beaker for anybody. It was just crazy. So here was this little baby attached to me all throughout that
amazing.
time in college,
Wow.
but the funny thing about it was that I used to feel so guilty, like that I wasn't doing enough for my kids, that they weren't okay, and I was being a bad mother. And, I was here doing this degree and working and doing all sorts of crazy stuff in the middle of it all. And that I wasn't being present for them. And incidentally, I had a placement. You have to go on placements in college, and I was placed in one of the, most difficult places to live, probably in Dublin,
Wow.
with working with mums who were addicted to crack cocaine, and how much that changed my view of my own parenting and of the resilience of a child. I think that was the big
Mhm.
takeaway for me, how resilient babies are and how resilient young kids are, that they can actually live on the side of the street and fend for themselves in some way. Um, Obviously they don't come out of that stuff unscathed, but it was
Yeah.
incredible for me to see the type of survival skills that they had adapted, So I mean,
Amazing.
isn't it
Yeah.
amazing, Nikki?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
we don't realize how tough our little ones are.
Totally. And I mean, although it wasn't when I was on maternity leave, it was actually earlier this year during lockdown. I know I shared this with you already, Siobhan, but I remember like I was working flat out because I'd taken on two HR
Yeah.
consultancy roles just as the law changed. My husband was working flat out. George was obviously at home, my son from nursery,
Hmm.
and just feeling so guilty
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
he was on his own and just watching telly and playing on the iPad,
Yeah.
doing all these things far more than I would want him to do,
Yeah.
and feeling like we're letting him down.
Oh,
And then actually you go, well, do you know what? He's having a lovely time. He's watching the telly. He's on
yeah.
his iPad, and
He's
he's
cool.
safe. And I think it is that whole thing about, as you say, we sort of, if we reframe it slightly and kind of shift it and kind of go, right, okay, what are we actually providing for them?
Yeah.
And it was something that our very good friend and coach Sandra said,
Mm.
um, about, is it true? And to be true, it has to be true all of the time.
Yeah.
So if you ask yourself that, and this is really a really good thing that I use with my clients all the time about guilt, is like the thing that you feel guilty about. So what is it? You don't say, for example, the guilt isn't about I'm not spending enough time with them. It's about the harm that you think that they are experiencing as a result of that, right? So it's like, oh,
Yeah.
they're not going to think I love them, or they're going to be, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You go, okay, is that actually true? And to be true, it has to be true all of the time. Well, the answer
Mm.
is 95% of the time, no. And then
Mm.
it's like, let's reframe it. What is more true? And so
Brilliant.
actually, I did that with our particular scenario, which was what is more true is that George is safe,
Mm.
he's loved, he's at home, and actually, do you know what? He was loving having far more time with Daddy than he would normally have.
Oh,
Because, Daddy doesn't normally get home until he's almost in
yeah.
bed, or sometimes after that. So,
Yeah.
it's about guilt, and again, you know more about this than me, Siobhan, with your
Not at all.
background. But from the guilt is a useful emotion to signal when we feel we are causing harm
Yeah.
potentially. And what we can do with it, it's useful if we use it. And I know that sounds really obvious, but what we can do is go, right, what is it I'm feeling guilty of? Let's reframe that. And if I need to course correct and do something differently, then I can. So it's just a
Yes.
signal, it's an alarm bell. And you kind of go, okay, should I do something differently?
Mm.
Okay, I've reframed it and actually it's not that bad. So no, I'll continue.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. When we actually stop and listen to the guilt, it can be really, really helpful. Now, I'm not saying I don't still feel guilt, but
Yeah.
I've got more tools to deal with it now, and I think that can be really helpful. So I hope that's helpful to some mums out
That's
there.
absolutely class, Nikki, because I mean,
Yeah,
how you think about things and your perception, it's really important to challenge those things, on a regular basis and say, well, is that fact or
yeah,
is it just perception,
yeah,
my perception of whatever's going on? So
absolutely.
I love that you brought that up because I think as entrepreneurs, we fall into that trap, don't we? Like really
Yeah,
regular.
yeah,
And we feel like, oh my God, I'm not spending enough time with my family. And then if that's the case, then, make time for them,
yeah,
make a little bit more time
yeah,
or, see, are they safe? Are they well? I love that piece. Love
yeah,
it, and they are actually quite happy to play away. or watch their
exactly.
TV program or whatever they have.
And it's like that whole thing going back to where we were at the beginning about, handing your child over to somebody. I mean, I remember the days when, I left George screaming at nursery and you come away and you're just exhausted starting the
Yeah.
day with that. But then you get to the point where they actually love going to nursery
Yeah.
and they skip off without saying goodbye. And then you're like, oh, am I not enough anymore?
Oh, they
We
don't
can't
love
win.
me.
So, it's then about just none of that is fact. As you say, it's all about how we perceive it. It's about the meanings that we apply to it. And if we can just have a look at that meaning,
Mhm.
shift it around a little bit, reframe it, have a look at it from a different angle, sometimes it looks very, very different. It can make us feel a whole lot better.
For sure. I love it. Nikki, a million thanks.
Oh, it's
Listen,
lovely to
guys,
speak to you.
please comment down below. Make sure you tag myself or Nikki in the comment as well
Yeah.
so that we can be sure to get back to you. If you guys have any questions for Nikki at all, please do look her up. Nicki Young. She is on Facebook, and please send her a friend request, or if you have any questions for her, just pop them down below. Nikki, it was so cool talking to you today, and thank you for
Lovely to
helping
talk.
me get myself live on
Oh,
Facebook.
you're very welcome. We managed it. Well done. Well done. Well done.
Woo!
Thank you,
Go
Siobhan.
us,
Lovely to
right?
speak to you. Thank you, everybody. Any questions, give me a shout. And Siobhan, I will
Awesome.
speak to you soon.
Thanks a million, Nikki.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.